Hi everyone, I'm Shagun Agarwal and recently I read the book Deep Work by Cal Newport and I'm going to discuss the summary of this book. This book sold about 1.5 million copies all over the world and it became one of the best-selling books on productivity and focus. So let's get to the summary, but before we get to the summary, let's discuss what the title of the book means. What does deep work mean? Deep work means focused, uninterrupted, undistracted work that creates a lot of value in return. It is the opposite of shallow work, which by definition means any logistical or administrative task that can be done even when distracted. It doesn't create much value and is easy to replicate. The book falls into two major categories. The first is what is deep work and why it is important to have deep work in your everyday life and why it is becoming more and more difficult to practice deep work today as compared to what it was 20 years ago. The second part of the book talks about those techniques and those approaches through which we can start incorporating deep work in our everyday life. So please stay till the end of the video because in the second half is what I'm going to talk about those techniques and those approaches that you can use to develop the habit of deep work in your life. The author says that the more we do deep work in today's information and technology environment, the more we thrive and the more we succeed. But the technologies that has brought us towards this information age is what is interrupting us to actually perform deep work. These are phones, different apps, the internet, and these are providing all kinds of distractions and interruptions that prevent us from doing deep work, which is focused work, which is undistracted work, which is a lot of value-adding work that takes you towards your deeper goals in life. Further in the book, the author Cal Newport says that there are three main distractions which is preventing us from doing deep work. So let's see those three. The first is open workspaces. Open floor plans or workspaces is meant to increase collaboration, but there is a continuously distracting environment that we are in, where every conversation is heard and one person can disrupt dozens of people. The second is instant communication such as Slack, WhatsApp and any other messaging app that we have on our phone, just constantly putting across notifications and distracting us from doing focused work. The third is social media. Social media apps such as Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, where the conversation seems endless. You feel you're very engaged or productive being there, but in fact, those are not taking us towards our goals in life. The author again comes back to the difference between deep work and shallow work and what is the importance of deep work. The author adds that deep work is extremely rewarding and fulfilling. It takes you towards happiness, it takes you towards more goal-oriented life. While shallow work is meaningless, while whenever you're doing shallow work, you might feel like you're doing a lot of work, such as answering emails. When you're answering emails, you feel like you're doing some kind of work. But those are not actually as important work that require focus and that take you towards your greater goals in life. The author points out further in the book a very important insight, and that is whenever we are performing deep work, what we are bombarded with is distraction, instant messaging, open floor plans, or colleagues around us, or our friends around us while we are studying, or the social media. So what is it that we can do that when we are performing the deep work, there are no distractions, or how we can avoid distractions so we can perform deep work at the utmost level? The first suggestion in this regard that the author Cal Newport says over here is that we should devote specific time of our day or our week just for deep work. And that has to be done periodically. It can be done once a day, twice a day, thrice a week, or so on. Whatever works for you as per your family rules or lifestyle or upbringing. In the book, it says that there are a lot of authors around the world who actually put out their phones on airplane mode or put notifications on their email through which they give communication to the outside world that they are not available to communicate at that time. And that is when they are able to create the space for deep work, when we go deep into writing, into collaborating, or anything else that's really important for them towards their career. Let me give you one another real life example. I was reading a blog which talked about the schedule or the routine that Adam Grant, the author of Give and Take, follows. The blog said that whenever Adam Grant has to work on something which is very important, which requires a lot of focus, and where he has to perform deep work, he puts automated mails and messages across all of the communication platform that he deals with. People feel that he's not available, maybe he's traveling or something else, but he's still in his study working on something that really means to him. The author also says that whenever we feel our energy levels are at the maximum, that's when we should devote our time to deep work. For most people, the most productive or the most energetic time is the morning. So Cal Newport says that always assign whatever time you feel as the most energetic or the productive for you to deep work. It can be morning 8 to 10, it can be 9 to 11 and so on. But that's when we don't have to do any kind of shallow work. We don't have to look at the internet, we don't have to answer emails or phone calls or anything like that. The author talks about a practical scenario over here. Suppose you're performing deep work, you're doing something which requires a lot of focus and attention, and you're continuously bombarded by distractions. In such time, what is the thing that you're going to do? So the author gives out certain techniques and approaches that can be performed to overcome these distractions. The first technique that the author Cal Newport talks about is scheduling time for the internet. Just as we are scheduling time for deep work, we have to schedule time for the internet also. So if you are scheduling 2 hours in a day for deep work, schedule half an hour or 1 hour for internet. But that's the time when you're going to reply to the emails, look at social media, reply to all the notifications, reach out to instant messaging and everything else. But that is the only time devoted to that. The technique number 2 is giving deadlines to each task. Suppose you have 2 hours of devoted time for deep work, set up a deadline around that. So this is the amount of work that you're going to complete in 2 hours, and this is the amount of deadline that you have put across. When you have a limit, when you have a deadline, you work more efficiently and you are less prone to distractions because you're under pressure to perform that work in that limited time. The third technique that the author suggests is build out a deep work environment. Whenever we are going to do deep work, set up an environment where you are supposedly going just to do deep work. Newport encourages you to build an environment that supports deep work by reducing distraction triggers. He suggests that designating a deep work space when you go only to do deep work. It can be the conference room, it can be your library, or it can be your own bedroom or your study. In the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, he discusses the power of using environmental cues to trigger desirable behaviors. So in this book Atomic Habits, the author says that suppose we are going to perform 2 hours of deep work. We put across something that triggers our mind into believing that yes, we are going to do deep work without any distractions. It can be lighting up a candle, it can be putting across a particular kind of a light or anything else. So the author suggests several ways in the book through which we can reduce our time spent on emails. So let's look at those 2 techniques that the author talked about. Make sure that your email contains all the necessary information. Newport explains that when replying to an email, you should articulate the current state of things, what the ultimate goal is, and what the most effective next steps are. For example, a bad email reply would be, yes, let's go out for lunch. What time does suit you? A correct reply to this one would be, I am available for lunch at these times. If you are too, let's have lunch at this place. If these times don't work for you, please suggest some times. The second is publish your email rules and let the other people know about your corresponding rules. Make sure people who are interested in contacting you know how you will handle incoming emails and which emails you will respond to and which emails you will reject. So the author Cal Newport suggests that we should have a clear correspondence as to the people who are going to contact us via email. In fact, we should tell them on email itself that please only contact me if you have a need for collaboration, for partnership, or you have something urgent to talk about. Another important insight that the author talks about over here is something that another American author talked about. His name is Nir Eyal. Nir Eyal says that humans have a high tendency to copy each other. So whenever I am replying to my emails quickly, the other person also has a tendency to respond back quickly. So if I am taking time to respond to my emails, the other person starts responding less, and the amount of emails that I receive at the end of the day becomes less and less with time. So this is the kind of message I would like to give everyone across, that if there is something really important or urgent, then only email me. Otherwise, please wait, or at least expect that there will be a delay in the reply from my side. This way, the emails you will get will be more thoughtful. By taking the pressure of a quick response of the other party, you allow them time to think through their response. So till now we have seen how to designate time for deep work, what is the importance and the definition of deep work, and accordingly how should we schedule time for shallow work. Now we are going to see that whenever we are performing deep work, how can we improve our focus levels. Because whenever we are doing deep work, if we want the maximum rewards, we will have to put in maximum focus from our side. So here the author talks about 3 techniques to improve our focus levels when doing deep work. So let's straight get to the first technique, and that is extremely important, is let boredom happen. Whenever we are feeling bored, whenever we are doing something which is a low stimuli activity, which is waiting in line for coffee or waiting in the elevator, we just take out the phones and fill up those moments with high stimuli activity, just checking notifications, checking social media, but that is what is depleting our focus levels. So if we deplete our brain activity by not tolerating boredom, even if you set aside time for deep work, you won't be able to do work during that time unless you strengthen your brain's focus muscles. So if you really want your focus muscles to get stronger with time, allow your brain to feel bored, especially in low stimuli moments such as waiting, such as just doing nothing, just sitting or thinking in a park. If you're sitting on a bench in a park, just don't take out your phone and start looking at it. Just enjoy the atmosphere and let the time pass where you start feeling bored, because that is what is strengthening your brain focus muscles. So the next time when you're in a restaurant waiting for a friend, consciously resist taking out your phone out. Instead, just sit still and take in whatever going on around you. The second technique is set up small manageable goals. Whenever we have a big chunk of task, if we divide that chunk into smaller chunks and we perform one chunk at a time, we will feel less zoned out. We will feel that the task is more manageable and more achievable at the same time. For example, if you set a goal of writing 500 words in 30 minutes, you know that just 30 minutes you have to perform deep work to write down 500 words. So you feel it's more manageable, achievable and attainable at the same time. And lastly, the third technique that the author talks about is say no to shallow work. Suppose there's a person who is calling you out for a meeting where you know something that nothing important is going to be discussed. Very politely just tell him that sounds interesting, but I'm having a schedule conflict. Even if you do not have a schedule conflict, just say no to shallow work, because once you say no to shallow work, that is what will create space for deep work. In today's time, you will face invitations to take part in various forms of shallow work such as meetings, committees and travel. Just say thank you for inviting me, but I won't be able to meet. This book, Deep Work, has a lot of valuable insights, and I have tried to accumulate as much as possible in this less than 10 minutes video for you. So I hope you like the contents of this video. If you want to talk about this book, if you feel that I've missed some insights, if you want to incorporate them more in my next video, or if you have any suggestions for me, if you have read this book, if you want to share your own thoughts, please do in the comment section, and please do like, share it with someone who's reading this book, share it with someone who doesn't have time to read this book, but will really appreciate if you share the insights of this book with that person. So please do spread this video so it can reach the maximum people. And I know a lot of people do not have time to read books, and that is why I create such videos. So you can get the gist and the most important points in just 10 minutes instead of spending hours to read that book. Obviously, the advantages of spending that many hours on reading the book, that cannot be mismatched or compensated with this 10 minutes video. If you want to have more of such videos where I talk about the takeaways or the different techniques, different insights that have been talked about in different books, please do let me know so I know what you're looking for. Thank you.